Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going deep, really deep into a world that's always fascinated me, but I'll admit, also intimidated me a bit. The world of chess.
Oh, intimidating. How so?
Well, I get the basic moves, and I'm always impressed by, the strategic thinking I see in movies and stuff, but I've never really gotten into the nitty-gritty of the game. But luckily, I've got you here today, someone who can actually explain all the complexities.
Well, we'll see how complex we get, but yeah, chess has definitely been a passion of mine for a long time now.
I think that definitely qualifies you as our chess expert for today's deep dive. So let's start with the very basics. Chess, this game of knights and pawns and checkmates, and I don't even know all the terms. Where did it all begin?
That's a great question, and the origin story of chess is actually a bit of a mystery, or at least there's no one definitive answer. The most popular theory is that it evolved from a game called Chaturanga, which originated in India sometime around the 7th century.
Chaturanga. Now that rings a bell, but I can't quite place it. What was that game all about?
It was a war game, essentially. And each piece represented a different part of the ancient Indian army.
Like infantry.
Exactly. Infantry, cavalry, elephants, chariots. It was almost like a mini battlefield on a board.
So like a strategic simulation.
Yeah.
Trying to outmaneuver your opponent, just like in a real war.
Exactly. And that connection to military strategy, it's still there in modern chess, even though the rules and pieces have evolved over time.
That's amazing. And it really puts things in perspective how a game created centuries ago is still so relevant and, well, popular today. So Chaturanga started in India. How did it become the global phenomenon we know as chess?
Well, like a lot of cultural things, it traveled along the Silk Road, that network of trade routes that connected East and
Oh,
West.
the Silk Road. I always think of spices and silk, but I never considered games traveling along those routes.
Well, ideas and cultures traveled right along with goods, so Chaturanga eventually made its way to Persia, where it evolved into what was called Shatranj.
Shatranj. So was that the same as modern chess?
Yeah, not exactly. The pieces moved a bit differently, and the pace of the game was much slower.
Slower. How so?
It was less about quick attacks and more about these carefully planned maneuvers. Think of it as like a game of patience and strategy, where even small positional advantages could be decisive.
Oh, I see. So it was already complex, but a different kind of complexity than modern chess.
You got it. And to add another layer of complexity, some historians actually believe that chess might have originated even earlier in China.
Wow, a Chinese origin. So we're talking about centuries of history and multiple possible origins. Are there any, physical artifacts that can help us unravel this mystery?
There are. Archaeologists have found these amazing ivory chess pieces in Uzbekistan dating back to 760 AD.
Wow. So these ancient chess pieces are like clues scattered along the Silk Road.
Exactly. And these discoveries really highlight how the game's journey across continents shaped its evolution.
So we've gone from ancient India to Persia, possibly even China. But how did we get from Shatranj to the, more dynamic chess we know today?
Well, that evolution mainly happened in 15th century Europe. That's when the rules we know now started taking shape.
What kind of rule changes are we talking about?
Oh, some big ones. Probably the most significant involved a piece we both know well. The queen.
The queen?
Yeah.
But the queen's already the most powerful piece in the game, isn't she?
In modern chess, yes, absolutely. But in Shatranj, she was actually quite weak, limited in her movements. But then, boom, in 15th century Europe, she got this massive power upgrade.
What, like she suddenly learned to fly across the board or something?
Basically, she could move any number of squares horizontally, vertically, or diagonally.
Wow. I can see why that would change the entire feel of the game.
It did. And it earned the game the nickname Mad Queen Chess because of her newfound, aggression.
Mad Queen chess, it has a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
Were there any other big rule changes around the same time?
Yeah. Things like castling and that tricky en passant pawn capture, those were formalized during that period, too.
Oh, I've heard of those, but I couldn't explain them to save my life.
Well, castling is basically a special move to protect your king. You move him 2 squares towards a rook, and then that rook hops over him, creating a sort of little fortress. And passant, well, that's a pawn capture that happens in a very specific situation. It's like a sneak attack.
It sounds like these changes made the game, faster paced and more complex. So we're talking about a major shift from that slow, strategic Shatranj.
Exactly. It's fascinating to see how this ancient game evolved over time, right? Reflecting changing times, different cultures, and even different ways of thinking about strategy.
It is. And speaking of strategy, I'm curious to learn more about how chess developed as a competitive sport. with legendary players, tournaments, those intense matches you see in movies.
Oh, there's a whole world of chess history to explore. A world of brilliant minds and fierce competitions.
Perfect. Well, let's dive into that world. I'm ready to learn about how this ancient game became the global sport it is today.
Sounds good to me. We can start by traveling back to the 19th century. That's when things really started to take off.
Yeah, the 19th century was a really big turning point for chess. It's when we start to see dedicated chess clubs and, organized tournaments popping up, kind of taking the game from those more informal settings, like in coffee houses or private clubs, to a whole new level of competition and recognition.
So before the 19th century, it was more of a casual, social thing.
Pretty much, yeah. But then you see this surge in popularity. People are getting more serious about the game, chess clubs are forming all over Europe, and these tournaments become like the proving ground for the best players.
And this is when we get the first official World Chess Championship, right?
Exactly. 1886, Wilhelm Steinitz takes the title, and it's a big deal.
So Steinitz, he's the first official world champion. What made him stand out from the crowd?
Well, he wasn't just a strong player, he was a real chess innovator. He's considered one of the pioneers of modern chess theory, emphasizing strategic depth and positional play.
Positional play. Sounds pretty technical. It is, but it's also super interesting. See, before Steinitz, chess was all about aggressive attacks, trying to checkmate your opponent as quickly as possible. But he came along and said, hold on, there's more to this game than just brute force.
So he's advocating for a more thoughtful approach.
Exactly. He's analyzing positions, thinking about the long game, understanding the strengths and weaknesses of different pieces, not just going for the quick kill.
So he's elevating chess to a whole new level of strategy.
He is, and his ideas had a huge impact. Players started studying his methods, realizing that every move should contribute to a larger plan, not just be a random attack.
That's fascinating. So Steinitz really sets the stage for modern competitive chess. And did the World Championship become a regular event after that?
It did. It became this highly anticipated event happening every few years, and it really fueled the competitive spirit of the game.
And those early champions, they must have been some serious chess minds.
Oh, absolutely. After Steinitz, we have Emanuel Lasker, who actually held the title for a record 27 years.
27 years. That's longer than some people's careers. What was his secret?
Well, Lasker was a fascinating character. He wasn't just a brilliant chess player, he was also a mathematician and a philosopher. He brought this incredible intellectual depth to the game.
So he's a chess philosopher king.
Pretty much. He believed that chess was a battle of minds, It wasn't just about calculating moves, but also about understanding your opponent, their psychology, and adapting your strategy accordingly.
So he's a master strategist and a bit of a chess psychologist.
Exactly. He could be super aggressive when he needed to be, but he was also incredibly patient, waiting for his opponent to make a mistake. That adaptability is what allowed him to stay at the top for so long.
That's amazing. And I guess that shows that chess isn't just about raw talent. It's also about mental resilience, right? Being able to adapt and outsmart your opponent. So after 27 years, someone must have finally taken the title from Lasker.
They did. It was Jose Raul Capablanca, a Cuban prodigy known for his incredible intuition and his almost flawless endgame technique. He was a real force to be reckoned with.
Capablanca.
Yeah.
Another legendary name in chess. How would you describe his playing style?
He was known for his elegant and economical style. He didn't make many unnecessary moves, and his accuracy was legendary. He was a master of simplifying positions, getting the game to a point where his superior endgame skills would basically guarantee him a win.
So it's like every champion brings something unique to the game, right? Steinitz with his strategic vision, Lasker with his psychological mastery, Capablanca with his pure chess intuition. It's incredible how they each left their mark on the history of the game.
Absolutely. And the story of chess, well, it doesn't stop there. The 20th century brings another massive change. Computers enter the game.
Yes. The rise of computer chess. It's almost like a clash of titans. Human brains versus silicon processors. I'm definitely curious to hear about that.
It's a fascinating and complex development. I mean, it's raised all sorts of questions about the nature of intelligence, the limits of human cognition, and what it means to play a game that's always been considered the ultimate test of human intellect.
It sounds like a whole new chapter in chess history.
It is. And to understand it, we need to go back to the early days of computer chess, back when programmers were just starting to figure out how to get these machines to play this incredibly complex game.
Yeah, those early days of computer chess, it was like almost a different world. We're talking the 1950s, 1960s. Computers were still in their infancy,
And trying to teach them to play a game as complex as chess, that must have been a challenge and a half.
It was. Those first programs, they were pretty basic compared to what we have now. They basically relied on brute force calculation, like crunching numbers, to figure out the best move.
So it was more about, like, raw processing power than any actual understanding of the game.
Exactly. Strategic thinking, positional play, all those nuances that make chess so fascinating, those early programs just couldn't grasp them. So like powerful calculators, but not chess masters.
Right. But things started to change in the 1990s. Computers were getting more powerful, and programmers developed more sophisticated algorithms, ways for those programs to actually learn and adapt.
And that's where Deep Blue comes in.
Deep Blue, yeah. That was a game changer. This IBM supercomputer, it takes on Garry Kasparov, the world champion at the time, and actually beats him in 1997.
I remember hearing about that. It was huge news, right? Like a machine beating the best human player at this game that's all about intelligence and strategy.
It was a major milestone. I mean, some people were worried, thinking that computers would make human chess players obsolete.
That's understandable. Like, is there even a point in playing if a machine can always outcalculate you?
But others saw it as an opportunity. Like, hey, we can learn from these machines, use them to analyze our games, find weaknesses, push our own skills to a new level.
So not a replacement, but more like a training partner or like a super-powered analysis tool.
Right, and that's how it's played out. Grandmasters today, they use chess engines all the time to prepare for matches, develop new opening strategies, you name it.
It's almost like a collaboration between human ingenuity and artificial intelligence.
It is. And it's pushing the game forward in amazing ways.
But doesn't it also raise the question of, like, will chess become too predictable? If computers can analyze every possible move, won't every game end up the same way?
It's a good question, and it's something a lot of people have wondered about. But the reality is chess is just too complex. There are so many possible positions, so many variations, that even the most powerful computers can't fully grasp the game.
So there's still room for human creativity, those intuitive leaps that a machine might miss.
Absolutely. Chess is a game of constant evolution, and the human element, that's what keeps it alive and unpredictable.
That's good to hear. I'd hate to think that chess could become, like, solved with every game predetermined. So it's clear how top players have benefited from technology. But what about us casual chess players?
Oh, technology has been great for us too. Online platforms, apps, you can play against anyone in the world, get instant analysis of your games, access tons of learning resources. It's amazing.
It's definitely democratized the game, made it more accessible to everyone. Now, before we wrap up, I want to touch on something we've only briefly mentioned. The mental aspect of chess. I mean, the concentration, the strategic thinking, it's mind-boggling.
It is, right. And research has actually shown that chess has all sorts of cognitive benefits, like improved memory, problem-solving skills, and even better decision-making.
So it's like a workout for your brain.
Exactly. And it's not just for kids either.
Right.
Studies have shown that playing chess can actually help maintain cognitive function as we age.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So not just a fun game, but potentially a way to keep our minds sharp.
Absolutely.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the ancient origins of chess to its digital evolution and all the amazing cognitive benefits. It's been a fascinating journey.
I agree.
And for our listeners, whether you're a seasoned chess player or just starting out, hopefully, this deep dive has sparked your curiosity. This game, with its rich history and strategic depth, has a lot to offer, both on and off the board.
Well said.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of chess. Until next time, keep those minds sharp and those strategies evolving.